We have been staying at the Pima County Fairgrounds in Tucson, Arizona.
Yeah, we're kind of experimenting, trying some different things. We normally move more quickly, but you can definitely save money by staying places for a week or even a month at a time.
Yep.
So
we very rarely stay someplace more than a week.
Right. So we stayed in our last campground for a week for like $75. We're staying here for a week for $150. And it's just because winter is long and there's only so many warm places to explore. And so we're kind of slowing down a little bit and also trying to save some money. I feel like, don't let this gorgeous day fool you. I feel like we've been bamboozled about Arizona being a good place to winter.
Not that Arizona is not, because people are getting serious snow right now and we are wearing t-shirts.
True, but leading up to this, it has been cold and rainy and windy and just not all that nice. But thankfully today is gorgeous. So we're gonna get out and do some exploring. So this is a big part of what I hate about the desert. Everything in the desert is trying to hurt you, and you can't walk the dogs. Man, it's in there good. Easy. Yeah, it's a bad one. I miss being able to just lay in the grass. So within the fairgrounds there is a 1.5 mile nature/fitness trail, and it's just really nice to have a place to take the dogs for a walk. And they've got signs scattered about telling you what the native plants are, most of which of course are cacti.
All right, we've come closer to downtown Tucson and we are visiting the Pima Air and Space Museum.
Well, this is Air Force One behind us.
Yep, this actual plane was used in the Kennedy and Johnson era.
Yeah, this is a really impressive, a little bit overwhelming, honestly.
There's a lot to see here. It really is.
This Air and Space Museum, it was $16.50 a person to get in, and I'd say well worth it. There's
Absolutely.
A lot to see here. You can actually buy a 2-day pass for $22 in case you can't get to it all in the first day.
And they also have a narrated tram tour for an extra $6 if you want to take that.
Yeah.
Really cool. So something that I find unique about this museum is that you can walk right up to these airplanes that are out in the yard and touch them and look up inside. I mean, they're just
Yeah, there aren't even guardrails around them, so you can get right up underneath the wing or the belly of the plane. And
I don't know if this is allowed, but there was kids climbing on one over there. I mean, that's how close you can get to them. So
yeah,
pretty neat.
yeah. I am admittedly not an aviation buff. I think planes are cool, but I don't know a lot of history and the different types of planes and whatnot. But these 3 planes really piqued my interest because various artists have come in and painted them, and it's just a really neat, interesting collaboration between aviation and art. What do you think?
Okay.
That was not my reaction.
Not what I would do with an airplane, but to each their own.
I liked it. All right, well, this little guy behind me is called Bumblebee, and he was designed and built for the sole purpose of taking the record for world's smallest aircraft. I don't know how a human even fit inside this thing. The cockpit area is so small. Okay, Pima Air and Space Museum done. What did you think?
I thought that was awesome. It was really fun.
Yeah, I agree. It was a really extensive collection. It covered all the different eras from the start of aviation with the Wright brothers, all the different branches of the military, Air Force One, commercial flight. They had a TWA, which was Howard Hughes airline. So just, they really covered a lot of ground there.
Really cool museum. If I had one complaint, it would be that outside the airplanes, they would tell you what they were, but they didn't really give you any history on them. It's like the Air Force One from the Kennedy era. I don't know. It just would have been interesting to know a little bit about it, I guess.
No, I don't disagree. Probably if we had paid the $6 a piece and done the tram tour they offered, that would have given us a lot of that information that would have been nice to have. Also, another cool thing they do is they have a boneyard tour.
Yeah, they have a airplane, basically salvage and junkyard here. And you have to give them 10 days advance notice to be able to do the tour, but they'll take you through there. And it's miles of airplanes from what we can see. You can see it from the road when you're driving through.
Right, exactly. I think the reason behind giving 10 days notice is that they run a background check on you. So we did not get to do that, but if you know you're coming to Tucson and think that that might interest you, plan ahead enough so that you can get your name in and get in and do that. Another cool thing, we got some patches from the gift store. So we got TJ a captain's patch, and then I got a navigator patch. Thought those were kind of fitting and cute.
And a Pima.
Well, of
Air
course.
Museum patch.
Yes.
The most important one.
They made some money off of patches on us at this place for sure. But yeah, it was definitely a good way to spend half a day. And if you're a real aviation, nerd, for lack of a better word, junkie, there you go, you could definitely spend probably a lot more time there. But we spent about 3 hours there, and I think it was a good amount of time. Next up, we are headed to Saguaro National Park. Well, we made it into the park, and our first stop, as always, is the visitor center. We had somebody recently ask us how we pick the trails we do, And honestly, most of the time it's talking to a ranger at the visitor center.
Yeah, we usually ask them what's their favorite, and that's the one we go with.
And also, you know, what's good for sunrise and sunset and what the most popular trails are. And then when you get the brochure, it always gives you the list of trails with their length and elevation and how difficult it is. And then we decide from there. All right, we just got done in the ranger station. We got our map and our suggestions for what to do in the park. We did bring the dogs with us in the park. We knew coming into it that the national parks aren't very dog friendly. The general rule of thumb is that they're allowed where there's pavement, so on the roads and the picnic areas, and if there are any paved trails or camping areas, they're generally allowed, but not on the hiking trails, unfortunately.
Yep, we weren't planning on doing a lot of hiking today anyway, and a big portion of the park is a drive, so
yeah,
we figured it'd be a good day to bring the dogs with us.
Yeah, so we're gonna do a scenic drive, and then they do have a paved trail in here as well that we can do with the dogs. We're here in December, it is nice and cool. You might be tempted to leave the dogs in the vehicle to go do a short hike, but the ranger did let us know that it's the Arizona state law that you can't leave dogs in a vehicle, regardless of the temperature. It's mostly a summer law because it gets so hot out here, and people just don't use common sense. But it is enforced year-round, so if a law enforcement officer sees your dog in a locked vehicle, you can get a ticket for that. So we're going to be safe and not do any of that on this trip. Our first stop in the park is Signal Hill. It's a half-mile trail up a hill to an area where there's supposed to be some pretty interesting petroglyphs. It's not a paved trail, so TJ has stayed behind in the van with the dogs, and I'm going to make the short walk up to take a look at it. And then if he's interested in seeing it, then we'll just trade and he'll go up without me. You know, it's a trade-off when you bring the dogs to the national parks, but, you know, sometimes you make that sacrifice. All right, those petroglyphs were made by a prehistoric Indian tribe that lived in this area from about 10,000 to 8,000 BC, known as I believe it's called Hohokam tribe. Pretty easy, short trail up to Signal Mountain to see those petroglyphs, and now I am headed back to the van to TJ and the dogs.
So we are officially on the Bahada Scenic Loop. It's about a 5-mile loop on unpaved road. Now it is graded, so any two-wheel drive vehicle can do it, but it's pretty washboard, pretty bumpy, and pretty narrow. So just keep that in mind if you're in a dually or something like that. You're definitely going to have to take it slow and easy. We're bouncing around quite a bit, as you can see right now. So.
We are walking the paved nature trail in Saguaro National Park.
Yep, this is the only trail in the park that the dogs are actually allowed on, the only nature hike.
Right. So you may be tempted to pronounce Saguaro, like we were, because it's spelled Saguaro, but the G is silent. You actually pronounce it like a W. So if you come to this area or are talking about this cactus, make sure you pronounce it correctly, saguaro. Some interesting facts about the saguaro cactus. It's a very slow growing cactus within the first 6 to 8 years of its life, only growing about an inch.
It could be 70 years before they actually start to grow branches or arms.
Yeah, and they reach full maturity at about 150 years old and are generally somewhere around 40 to 50 feet tall, although the tallest can get up to 75 feet tall. So really a sight to see. These are, when you think of cactus, these are the cactus you think of from like the old Western movies and TV shows.
Yep, for sure.
So seeing it in person and seeing such a large amount of them, such a concentrated amount of them in one place is really neat.
Really cool. Now, Saguaro National Park is actually split into two separate areas. There's an east side and a west side. We chose to come to the west side. It has a more deserty feel, and it also is said to have 3 times the amount of cactus here than the east side. The east side gets more rain, it's cooler temperatures, less cactus.
Yep, so it's the more popular side of the park, and since we had a limited amount of time to spend here, we decided let's come to the more popular side with the larger concentration of saguaro cactus.
So as a side note, there can't be a worse place to walk an animal than on this trail. Every inch, other than what's paved, has a pricker on it and is trying to poke at us.
Yeah, and anybody that knows or has owned a Brittany, keeping a Brittany on the trail is nearly impossible. So yeah, lots of fun. All right, well that was the nature trail. It was a half-mile paved loop, pretty level, so really good for like wheelchair accessibility or
somebody that just wants a nice, easy hike.
Yeah, exactly. There was a young couple out there with their baby in a stroller, right. You know, so, or people with dogs for that matter, if you want to bring the dogs to the park, if they stay on the trail and don't
try to keep them out of the stickers.
Exactly, don't stick their nose in the cactus. So I think that wraps up our time here in Saguaro National Park.
Yep. Now there are a couple things just outside the entrance of the western side of the park. Mm-hmm. There is the Desert Museum, which people have told us is a really cool thing to see and might be a good thing to see before you enter the park. Get a little education. Yeah, highly recommended by many. A little bit pricey though, which is a big part of the reason why we've chosen not to do it. It's about $25 a person, and you know, unfortunately, money doesn't grow on cactus. So the other thing is Old Tucson. That I think we're going to drive through and check out on the way out. Yeah, so let's go. All right, well this is Old Tucson behind me, which is an old Western theme park, and it's actually a movie set. They film out here. So they've done Tombstone, they filmed several John Wayne movies, and Clint Eastwood is filmed here as well. But of course it's not free, it's $22 a person to get in. It is dog friendly. I'm walking back to the van now to tell TJ the price, and pretty sure we probably won't be going in Old Tombstone either, or Old Tucson. There's a very unhappy child behind me somewhere. So, Old Tucson is an old Western theme park and production studio. They actually filmed Tombstone here,
and some John Wayne movies and some Clint Eastwood movies here. There's been over 400 films filmed here, but anyways, it's $22 a person to get in.
Dude. Okay.
So yeah.
Not doing that.
Yeah.
That was Grants Pass. That was pretty cool. I actually enjoyed that drive and the scenery more than I did the drive in the park, which was kind of odd.
Well, you're getting elevation with it. You're going up and over a mountain pass, and so it's kind of unique in that way. And also, the scenic road is a dirt road, and so if you get behind a line of traffic, it just turns into a dust storm and is a little less enjoyable because of that. So, yeah, it was short, but it was really great views of the huge masses of saguaro cactus.
And there's also scenic pull-off, so you can get off and stop and take a look around if you want.
Right. All right, we are headed out of Tucson this morning. Still dealing with a little anxiety with Madley in the van, so to try to make the van a happy place, she gets a very special peanut butter filled Kong on van rides. So just a little trick we're trying to do a little behavior modification with her. You ready to go, Mad? Come on, let's go. I'm just doing my final walk around the trailer, make sure TJ hasn't forgotten anything, removing wheel chocks, leaving a surge protector, not hitching up, missing a step in the hitching up process. We always like to check behind one another because we're human and sometimes we forget things. Enjoyed our time in Tucson, but it is time to move on.
Yes, getting the itch. We've been here way too long.
Yep, so hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, please be sure to give us a thumbs up.
And if you want to follow along, make sure you subscribe.
Thanks for watching, guys.